Today on Locked On Rockies, not a winning weekend overall for the Rockies here at spring training, but doesn't mean the sky is falling. There are things that are still reaching out or impressing. There are also things that are disappointing, especially what happened with Justin Lawrence.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the third day of March in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. We're going to be giving you the latest from spring training for the Colorado Rockies today. But before we dive into everything, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Paul Holden, your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, here bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk, shouting out our everydayers out there. Thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. You can find us on your favorite streaming services or be part of the show and fire off your Rockies hot takes on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section, just like all sorts of folks did. And we got more comments to read today, so don't miss out on that. We got more. So if you want to be part of the show, if you got Rockies hot takes, and I'm talking about you, guy on Reddit that said I was an armchair quarterback, which I am. I totally am. You nailed it. Anyway, be part of the show over there. Love hearing from the fans. Love hearing from the everydayers over there. So anyway, today on the show, of course, we're going to update, talk a little bit about spring training. Win-loss wise, not the most successful weekend for the Rockies here. Dropping 2 out of 3, and yesterday's game, a close one, basically up until the end where things started getting out of hand. And I think what we saw, my main takeaways from this weekend are, it's kind of I think this was a reminder, this was a reminder that things are getting more serious. Things are ramping up a little bit. But then you look at the lineup against Cleveland, and there's not very many starters in that lineup, if any, really. There are a lot of guys that were fighting for a spot. And, of course, possibly, I guess it depends on what happens with the waiver process and what that okay. Yeah, so I don't know. We haven't seen a claim yet, and I don't quite think I just can't remember if he clears the if he clears the waivers, he'll go back. Yeah, if he goes unclaimed, he'll remain in the Rockies. All right, I was just reading ahead of the piece that we were going to read, but yeah. So, and I guess let's start there. I'm really bummed by this. I am really bummed by this, and I think there's already you can immediately point to a guy that they could have traded back in 2023 when he was really showing the promise. It could have maybe traded him at the deadline last year, probably, even with the ups and downs, probably, still by the trade deadline last year, the jury still could have been out on what Lawrence was able to do. But it's a shame. I mean, unfortunately, it just hasn't worked. And, I was listening to the game, another weekend where it was kind of hard to watch the Rockies or really consume anything of the Rockies. I think, what was it, Saturday's? Was Saturday's game televised there? The Dollanders started. I was out all day Saturday, so I didn't really get a chance to watch. But I'm listening to the Guardians broadcast, right? I'm listening to it, and Lawrence comes in to pitch, close ball game, and then it takes me right back to where we've been so many times with him. Wild pitch, or he's missing the zone big time. It's just going way outside, and basically the Guardians broadcaster eventually was just saying, this guy's just got to throw some fastball. I can't remember the exact phrasing he used, but he's overcooking. He's just ripping everything over, and it's just sailing a little bit on him. And of course, what happened in that game against the Guardians? Well, the Rockies gave up 2 runs in the 8th inning there, and both of those runs were attributed to Justin Lawrence. And that story's been told too many times. And it's with this move, I do think it's a sign of, hey, the leashes aren't as long this year. We have young guys that we can try in the bullpen. We have young guys that we can try out there. I don't think we're going to sit and see as much of the, hey, we're going to keep throwing, keep trying the Justin Lawrence experience, keep having him go out there if he's struggling and because we need him because of health, because again, last year and the health of the Rockies pitching staff has been a completely different story, bullpen and starting rotation. So you see this and you say, all right, do we really need to keep up at this experiment? Do we really need to keep going with Lawrence and keep trying to figure out the Lawrence thing when we have Angel, when we have Agnos, when we have Halverson, when we have all, keep going down the list of young guys, young arms. And you do start asking the question of, okay, like I really can't see it because the Rockies, they can't afford that. Like that is going to be the difference maker in ball games. There is exactly how because last year especially we saw exactly how that game against Cleveland played out. We saw it play out exactly the same way time and time again last year. And there was a couple errors by the Rockies, mind you, and all that stuff. But when unfortunately Lawrence, 1 inning pitched, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, 2 earned runs, and a hit. I mean, you can't be doing that in the 8th inning of the ball game. I mean, that's just that in a tight game, in a tie ball game, in the bottom of the 8th, the Rockies need better performance there. And unfortunately, they have not gotten a lot out of Lawrence here. And let's read from MLB trade rumors. Lawrence 30 has and this is Rockies reportedly placed Justin Lawrence on waivers by Nick Deeds on MLB trade rumors. Lawrence 30 has parts of 4 MLB seasons under his belt since he debuted with the Rockies back in 2021. After struggling badly in a brief cup of coffee with the club during the 2021 campaign, Lawrence posted lackluster results in 2022 despite solid peripherals. Meanwhile, while his 5.7 ERA that year was well below average, a 3.39 FIP, a 3.54 xERA, and a 3.63 SI ERA all suggested Lawrence had pitched much better than his surface level production would have suggested. He was a victim of a low 63.7 strand rate and an inflated .350 BABIP, but his strong 25.1% strikeout rate combined with the 50.8% ground ball rate made clear the bones of a quality MLB reliever were present. And especially if you just dive there, right? When you're talking about the Rockies and a ground ball rate of above 50%, that's exactly what they're looking for, right? That's exactly what they're hoping for as they are trying to build that. Some of those advanced stacks are kind of diving deeper there, but at its core, a guy that can get strikeouts 25% of the time and get ground balls 50% of the time, that fits very much with what the Rockies, are looking for in that pitching profile. The right-hander then proved to be exactly that sort of quality MLB reliever the very next year as he enjoyed a breakout season in 2023 at the age of 28. In 75 innings of work, Lawrence posted a 3.72 ERA with a matching 3.76 FIP while picking up 11 saves during a season where he shared the closer role with struggling veteran Pierce Johnson. Lawrence's ERA that season may not jump off the page, but when factoring in the inflated offensive environment Rockies pitchers face at Coors Field, he was actually well above average, as demonstrated by his 134 ERA+. Lawrence's peripherals more or less matched his work into the 2022 campaign with a 23.9% strikeout rate and an 11% walk rate and a 48.5% ground ball rate. Entering 2024, it seemed as though the right-hander had a solid foundation for MLB success, which he could build off going forward. Unfortunately, that's not how things have worked out. Lawrence had the worst season of his career in 2024 as he surrendered a 6.49 ERA in 59 and 2/3 innings of work, while his peripheral numbers regressed across the board. His walk rate ticked up last year, strikeout rate plummeted, and just 4 pitchers in the majors had lower walk to strikeout percentage than Lawrence. And then moving into the spring, but the right-hander, spring results always need to be taken with a grain of salt, but the right-handers looked wild with 3 walks and 2 hit batters against 2 strikeouts against 3 innings of work. That seems to have been enough for the Rockies, who expressed a desire to deal Lawrence this winter to pull the plug. In doing so, the club opened up playing time for younger relief arms like Angel Chavi'i and Jeff Criswell among a non-competitive season, and could save the sum of Lawrence's $975,000 arbitration salary if he's plucked off waivers by another organization. So if he goes unclaimed, he'll be back with the Rockies. The righty could be outrighted off the club's 40-man roster at any point, stashed in the minors as depth. So that could be how it is. So thank you for the rundown and the recap there from Nick. And I wanted to bring all that up. I read so much of that because it just does highlight how much potential there was there. It also brings up for a lot of folks that will say, again, this should have been looked ahead of time in 2023. The Rockies should have, again, had a chance to strike while the iron was hot in a non-competitive season, to trade away an asset, to add more pieces on, to start building up for the future here. And I think that's a decision that is rightly criticized, especially now and within this light of, I personally thought the Rockies were higher on Justin Lawrence. I thought that they were going to be more committed and more into what Justin Lawrence could do, and trying to get back to that 2023 version of him. Have someone with that fun, unique arm angle. Have someone that's got a sweeper. Have someone that can come in and just change up everything of how it's looking up on the mound there in the later stages of the ball game. And for the Rockies to punt this quickly, right? To punt quickly after a bad start to spring. And mind you, I think that's good context though for the struggles of what's going on with Justin Lawrence in the spring. The multiple walks, the multiple hit batters there, the runs given up. It's a small sample size, certainly. But it's interesting to see the Rockies there say, okay, young guys, boom, we got it. We're fully committing to opening up a roster spot for another young guy that we might have saw last year, or maybe a breakout candidate from camp. It was just, I thought that if the Rockies were serious about hanging on to Justin Lawrence, why did it become so eager to trade him? I guess, and again, and why would you try to trade him this offseason where the value is at the all-time low and you're just going to get peanuts, if anything, and not try to do something again? So I guess I just wonder, was it just like they saw something and it just kind of clicked like this, like they saw the stuff here to start spring training and they were immediately like, we know, like, the signs are here. We're in for a similar season to last season with Lawrence if we continue with this. What was it just this bad start to spring and that was enough? And if they were trying to trade him over the winter, what were the warning signs beforehand? Was there any interest? Were they able to do anything? It would be interesting to know because it's a quick turnaround, I think, in baseball terms, and Rockies' commitment to players terms, when it's moving on this quickly from a guy. But now, with it panning out this way, with Lawrence ending up on the waivers, with it being another thing that's, could pan out where the Rockies lose a guy and get nothing back and just suffer through bad performance from that player. I actually, there is a part of me that does sit there and say, what happened in 2023? Like, what happens within the Rockies front office when it comes to trade time, when the Rockies do have players that are playing well and they're approached by trades or they're thinking about it and then they don't get it done? I'm just curious more of what it is when they're saying, we like these guys, we think these guys are going to bring more. And again, I'd like to emphasize here that I was a big Justin Lawrence guy, and I thought Justin Lawrence was going to be a key part of this bullpen for the next few years. Coming into the last year, coming into the 2024 season, I literally spent most of the offseason saying, watch out for Justin Lawrence. He is the guy to watch. So obviously, I got it wrong too. But I just want to be a fly in the wall of the trade deadline times where the Rockies have interesting guys amidst losing seasons where again, things aren't, and by that point, right, if you're at the trade deadline, you got a little bit of an outlook for next year too, right? If you're sitting there at 2023, you're sitting there saying, okay, you don't know 100% what the team in 2024 is going to look like, but you're getting some hunches and you kind of know where you're going to be at, right? So the idea must have been, that Justin Lawrence was going to be a key piece of everything going forward, but for him to be be moved on from so quickly and to be overshadowed by some of the younger arms within the Rockies organization so quickly, that's a tough one because he's a guy I was rooting for sure. And, he might still have another chance. We'll see what happens with the waiver process. I mean, the way he was placed on waivers, I believe, to start the weekend here. So it's been a few days. We'll see. I don't know how much longer he'll necessarily be on there. But, that one's a tough one. It's a guy I was rooting for, a guy that I thought was a lot of fun to watch. Frustrating to watch, certainly. But we will see. We will see if he clears the waivers and joins the Rockies yet again, or if someone will claim him and they will rebuild him and they will dominate the Rockies going forward, because that's how it be sometimes. But anyway, let's take a break. Let's talk about more news and notes from spring training. We'll do that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible. That includes FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. If you're locked into the Nuggets or Avalanche, you can see all the action for yourself in the super easy-to-use app, making sure that you're back in the Nuggets for a big comeback if they're down late. Tough game against the Celtics there. Not fully healthy, but hung in there. Or maybe you want to see the Avs put one in the net. You can use the super easy-to-use FanDuel app, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Rockies here, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, bringing you daily Colorado Rockies talk. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go hang out with our pal Sully on the Locked On MLB podcast, breaking down all things baseball from around the league, keeping you up to date with everything you need to know. So don't miss out on that there. And, of course, Locked On Rockies YouTube channel is where you can be part of the show. Make sure you're heading on over there, firing off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind. If you want your comments and questions read on the show, that's the best place to go. So that is where to go. All right. Also in other news this weekend for the Colorado Rockies here, roughed up a little bit by the Arizona Diamondbacks on Saturday with Dollander on the mound. But honestly, here's my thing. I'm not that worried about it. I think for Chase, because, one of the good signs in that too, 4 strikeouts, right? Love that. I think it was a reminder too that it's just like, hey, these are major league, with everything we talked about with spring, with things going well in the spring in terms of the Rockies winning ball games in the spring, I'm not saying they're taking it off. They're the foot's off the gas or whatever, but lineups are different. Who's playing when? Who's doing that? Who's in the lineup? I think for Chase, this was a taste and a reminder of, hey, this is the major leagues. These are major leaguers. This is when you step up to the bump here, you're going up against some darn good talent. And because when you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup for this game here, Ketel Marte, Alek Thomas, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez. There was Perdomo. There's a whole list of guys, Garrett Hampson as well, in there having, so there's a list of veteran guys that were in that lineup who got multiple at-bats in that game. And you're going up against Zach Gallen as well, too. So I don't know if was it a bummer? Sure, that he gave up, the damage that he did. But I think that was I think that's the type of start in spring where you kind of that's a reality check type of game, I think, for the Rockies in general, too, where it's a reminder of, hey, like, it's on, like, it's spring training. These games don't matter, overall much. But when the starters are in the lineup, and now that we're into March with the start of the season officially, start with opening day this month, you have to be, you have to start ramping it up a little bit. And I think the Rockies got caught a little off guard on Saturday by the fact that, the Diamondbacks giving us a little slice, a little sneak preview of what's to come here coming up this season. But I'm not sitting here overly worried about what happened with the second start there in spring for Chase. I think that this is fine. I don't again, I'll take 4 strikeouts, but the Rockies weren't really locating pitches well there with the amount of home runs that they were giving up and just in that game there. But you got that's what it's going to take. I think it's just a good sign of hey, this is a real good team, and you're going to have to come at it and do your job, do well, and handle business, because we know how quickly it can get out of hand. And with the Rockies, on the bright side though, bouncing back and scoring some runs there themselves. Bouchard picking up a 2-run triple there. That was I was going through the story day here, so I'm watching the plays again here. He's been doing all right this that's, you never like to see that. That's a tough collision. Like I said, I wasn't able to catch the game there. Nolan Jones scoring a run, even though he's struggling. Nolan Jones, though, I think maybe with Nolan Jones, even though there's stuff struggling, he makes the big defensive play yesterday, right? I think there might be a little bit of wow, is this breaking right now as I'm recording? Hold on. The Rockies might be missing or might be losing a young arm for the season here. Oh, it's not breaking. Wow, I did not see this yesterday. Criswell is set to undergo Tommy John surgery. Wow, that stinks. A guy that we just mentioned in the first segment about the Rockies potentially opening up a spot in the bullpen for him. Oof, I missed that yesterday. I went through and I did not see that. But man, that is tough. That is just that's just something that I'm trying to see if there was something on Purple Row from yesterday. If I missed it, no. There's I'm sorry. I kind of I'm getting thrown off completely. It's not usual where I miss something like that. But yeah, so a young arm for the Rockies. That's going to be is going to be done for the season there. So that's going to mean opportunity for others. That's going to certainly mean a lot of a big deal for Angel Chavihi here. Let's see what Roxpile has to say. As let's see who wrote this piece. George Ferguson. Let's see. Colorado announced that the right-handed reliever Jeff Criswell will need Tommy John surgery, and his season is officially over. Though Criswell, just 25 years old, who made his major league debut with the Rockies last season, didn't have overwhelmingly impressive results. It was enough positive signs led to Colorado pencil him into a key reliever role this season. That won't be the case. He will have the season-ending surgery. It would mean the Rockies really need the likes of Jake Bird and Angel Chavihi to step up and pitch well. That'll also maybe potentially be a new life for Justin Lawrence as well. But maybe with the Rockies already making that move, knowing that they might have to make this decision as well to put Lawrence on waivers, mixed with knowing that that Criswell is going to need that Tommy John. Maybe that was already part of the factor that was already factored in. Wow. Okay. So that was interesting. It was interesting that I literally when I sit down to record, I type Rockies, and I figured Tommy John surgery would have been something that would have jumped to the top of the list for some folk or for the search there, but I guess not. So, okay, well there you go. No Jeff Criswell this year for the Colorado Rockies. Unfortunate for him. Man, those long-term injuries, they got to be such a battle to go through as an athlete. And as a human being. I mean, those doesn't matter if you're long recovery time is a lot, is a very taxing thing. But luckily, I don't know. Luckily doesn't feel like the right word to say there, but it is a game with a lot of experience in that area, and there are people in that locker room that have gone through that journey that can hopefully be resources for Jeff. Even though I know he was a minor leaguer, he hadn't really, wasn't a fully established major leaguer yet. But a lot of resources hopefully there within the Rockies to help him as he goes through that recovery, and we wish him nothing but the best, because that's a tough one. That's tough news to hear for your pitcher. If you're a pitcher, I mean, it's a well-known concern, but it's and you know the possibilities. But when that hits you, it's man, that is, I'm sure, just a total just life changer right there, and it's going to take a lot of work to get back through there, and hopefully he's got not only the support but the resources from the team as well to help him get into that right spot. All right, let's finish the show off with some comments from the Locked On Rockies YouTube section. We'll do that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Locked On Rockies here, returning to you all for segment number 3. Thanking you again for making us your first listen of the day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. We are really appreciative of all of that. All right, let's dive into a couple of comments. And here's what TK had to say before the weekend started. If Justin Lawrence makes the opening day bullpen and Zach Agnos does not, that's going to be a real head scratcher. Well, I mean, it's a completely different situation now. I mean, we'll see what that means. We'll see if that means that it's going to be room for Agnos there, or who's going to be the young arm. But it's clear now at this moment, at this stage, the young Rockies bullpen is going to have to step up again. With this being they're going to have to not only replace one of their own, but replace one of the veteran presence there if another team does pick Lawrence up, and if Lawrence stays in the minors for most of the season. This is a situation in which there's the list of guys that could step up is big. It's another moment of opportunity for young Rockies players to stake their claim, right? To make the case of why they are major leaguers, why they are ready to go, and why they are ready to help the Rockies win. Timothy says, I do like paying attention at the beginning because I'm so excited for baseball. By mid-March, I'm just ready for the regular season. That spring training feels too long. Yeah, spring training is one of those things that it plays with my hype as well. I'm with you, where it's like, I'm excited for baseball, but I get thrown off a little bit by the length of spring training, because it's like, yes, baseball is here. Baseball season's underway. Like, we got ball. There's baseball happening every day, but it still feels a little different. Mixed in, obviously, with the fact that is the game on the radio? Is the game not on the radio? Is the game on TV? Is the game not on TV? Is it streaming somewhere? We're watching Nolan Jones make that. They got a great clip of Nolan Jones making the diving stop yesterday, but where could we watch? I think that question does keep coming back up. So I'm with you. And Timothy had another one. I'm really excited for the young arms in the lineup. I think 70 or above for wins is not out of the question. Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to, I really am a big believer in the tone setter this year. With the weird schedule to start, you're not super loaded up on division talent or these other teams, good teams, mind you. These are the Rockies still playing good teams here, but I think 70 wins will be more of a reality if the Rockies play near 500 ball in the opening month of the season. It doesn't have to be, and that could be one way or the other. It could be slightly above, slightly below, or at like 3-game range of 500. I think that you could figure out your way, because there have been times, if this team's offense can roll at home, they're going. That's like the ultimate thing too. I think too, when it comes to like, how good will this team be at home? Can they capitalize on the beginning of the season instead of being a team that looks, way behind everyone at the start of the season like they did last year? Can they be the team that capitalizes on a slow start for a good team, or teams maybe not at full strength yet, waiting for someone to return from injury, XYZ? That will be the way to get to 70 wins. Those two key areas there. And it's certainly, is it a possibility? Yes. Is it likely? I don't know if I'm ready to still sit there and say it's likely the Rockies win 70 games. It is certain. It is 100% possible. but I'm still putting it in an under 50% chance that it happens. I do think the Rockies can avoid 100 losses. I think it's more likely that they avoid 100 losses this year than the past 2 seasons. But that also could change depending on how the trade deadline goes and who's still on the team after that point. All right, folks, that is going to do it. A lot of pitcher news for the Rockies here over the weekend. A lot of bullpen news for the Rockies over the weekend. What are your thoughts on the changes to the bullpen here for the Colorado Rockies? Let me know in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section, because that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. And if you need more Colorado sports action covered for you here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.